Hello, everybody. Welcome to Office Hours with your future Dark Overlord, which is me, your walking cadaver, your person who so palely fades into the background of this white wall. It is I. We're just going to shoot the shit for an hour. I'm going to be here for an hour. You guys go do what you got to do. Number one, let's get it out of the way. A is not here tonight. She's in the chat room tonight, but she's completely shot out because, thank you, Joshua. She's completely shut out because she had a colonoscopy today. I've had one. If you are of the tender age of 50 or above, you should make sure you have one. You should make sure you call your doctor if you have not had one. Seriously, it's a medical miracle. It's amazing. And she had hers today, which means she couldn't eat all day yesterday, and then had to take what I can only describe as the poop juice. You drink this cleanser or whatever they call this demonic fluid, and everything that's inside of you comes outside of you. And when I did it, it was so fun. I really had a really, really good time. So I know A had a blast with it too, but she went this morning, and then of course she was all anesthetized. I was going to say she was all liquored up, but that's not how. By the way, cheers to all of you. Happy Wednesday to all of you. If you come here for positivity, a little tinky, I'll give you a little tink. So she was all liquored up today. She went in for her procedure, and she came out, and she's handling it really well. She's got a super high tolerance for both like pain and anesthesia. They don't register with hers. They do on the average person. But she came out. She was fine. She's like, you know what? I feel fine. I think I was under, but I don't think it bothered me at all that much. Got home, boom, right to sleep. Slept for like 5 or 6 hours. Got up, had a half a bagel, went right back to sleep. So she is exhausted and not ready to be on camera tonight with us because she might fall asleep in the middle of it. But she's in the chat room for now, although she did tell me she might fall asleep in the chat room as well. Yes, Shannon apparently is a redheaded gene. All right, so I'm going to keep an eye. I'm going to keep my phone out here. Oh, yeah, I got my phone right here. Let's see. I'll get A's chat up on the phone, turn on my phone. So if I miss a question, we will try and answer it. And I haven't gone back. Let me go back here, see if anybody had any questions. Because I got some random bullshit to talk about. There's no revelatory things going on. Looks like a lot of people. All right, Nelson, get it done, brother. Get it done. Daryl got his done. Good man. Reagan, I can't tell you if Mercury's in retrograde. I really don't know all that. Hey, Matt McRoberts. I don't know all that much about all of the stars and the shine. Ollie Kirby from Down Under. Ollie I think Ollie's been very busy lately, probably with the job and the newborn, but happy to see you back, Ollie. All right. Scott Pond, let's be honest, it's a shitty procedure. I wasn't going to throw that line out, but you can count on Scott Pond to throw that line out. Let's random bullshit to talk about. Mercury is out of Gatorade. Very good. I just watched this. The Northman, which is not the way it's pronounced. It's The Northman. What a crazy flick. One of the things you do if you have a blog is sometimes people will hit you up and say, hey man, you want to review my movie, man? And I said, yes, I do. Because it looked like, Vikings and blood and guts and lots of, sword fighting and axe hitting and shield bossing, all kinds of good stuff. So we watched it. A watched, I would say, maybe the first half of it, first 40% of it. And it was definitely not for her. So we put that away and we came back to it. Because it's got like Nicole Kidman in it and Alexander Skarsgård, who was the Eric Northman on True Blood, if you've ever seen that, which is a great, great show. And there was a lot of cool stuff. Anna Taylor-Joy, who's in that chess show, whichever that is. And she was also the Vivitch. She was the young witch. If you've seen that movie, that's a trip, that flick. And Ethan Hawke, who is rapidly later in his career for me, because I think I'm about the same age as him, or he's a little bit older than me, is becoming one of my favorite guys because we just watched him on Moon Knight, and brother slayed it on Moon Knight, just crushed it. It was very good in this too. And Willem Dafoe. It's loaded from top to bottom. As you can see, everybody got ripped up. Abs, pecs, all the good stuff. I'm not sure I can recommend it. It was very interesting and I enjoyed it. The fight scenes were this is a true fantasy story. So this one has a lot of dreamy sequences and weird graphics and cutaways to what I think the director was going for, is cutaways to the sort of mystical nature of a pre-industrial culture and tying in with, have I seen Pathfinder? I can't remember. The director's trying to show what true believers at that time in the world would see in their head when they were a little bit high or deep in prayer and thinking about things. And it's a really interesting approach to take. For me, it's a little hard to take as a modern day person and also an atheist to look at that stuff. But it was pretty to look at. The fight, I was kind of expecting like a Braveheart type level of brutality and execution. And I didn't really see it. So it's definitely, some more got a migraine. That sucks. It's not a bad 2 hours to spend whatsoever. But so I did that. And Northman, if you guys have any questions of the Northman, I'll try and remember. And the fight scenes there was just a little stuff that the stuff that I intentionally make sure I don't put into my work, which is, if you have a person at a disadvantage, you finish that person. You don't stop. It's the James Bond conundrum. When James Bond is a prisoner, instead of boom, dead, done, as Scott Evil would say, they let people live and they let people go on, and it makes it just that context makes it harder for me to enjoy a property. But I get it, because some of the dialogue between Bond and the villains is so great. It's so much fun, but it does kind of, hey, Boz, what's going on, man? Flying solo tonight, Boz. The ARealGirl had herself an afternoon. We're probably going to go to bed super early tonight. I'll tell you that. Everybody in the house is exhausted. I found out it was more tiring than I expected to have your spouse going to the hospital for a day. Who knew? I mean, who knew such a thing? Looks like the chat room is rising. Valhalla Rising. Oh, Howard, what's up, buddy? How you doing, man? Howard knows a lot about movies, so I got to write down Valhalla Rising. Writing it down. There you go. Do you guys ever, when you write something down and you're like, people are waiting on you to write it down, say it's like a 5-word sentence, you get the first 2 words like perfectly right, and then the last 3 words are like, and you can't. So I'm like, I got to finish writing. People are waiting for me. And then you look at it later, you're like, I have no idea what this says. I think 1 out of 100 of my little written down to-dos, I look at it and I'm like, no idea what I was saying there. And I just delete it. Hopefully I'll figure it out later. So I'm not quite as active in the chat room because I'm managing everything tonight. But if you guys, again, if you have a question, just repeat it a couple times. We'll try and see it. So I've got other little stuff. Stephen, I don't do that with other people's stuff, Steve. I do not. Steve's referring to when we record an audiobook, A produces it. I'm in the booth as talent. Shine. And Steve does the does the engineering and the post-production work on it, to put in all the sound effects, the vocal filters, and he has to edit all this stuff. And I get very frustrated with my own work when I read it out loud and like, oh, this is not, frankly, this is not worth all of your attention. This paragraph right here, this has to be redone or miss a plot point or do something like that. And invariably when I'm in the booth, I say, who wrote this shit? Knowing full well who wrote this shit. It was me. So cheers to me for writing bad stuff and then stopping and fixing it. I know, Woogie, I got paper all over this joint. Just this morning, I was delighted. I took a day off from writing so I could focus on taking care of A and picking A up and getting other things done. And I went through like 17 note cards. I write down note cards and then I just put them in places. Usually there's a stack. So I'll have like 8 in a stack. And then there's like 5 to 7 all about the joint. And I have to find them and write down all of that stuff. Hey, Michael. Which is weird because I use Remember the Milk, which is a wonderful program. And all I would really have to do is put in Remember the Milk, except I've been so busy on deadline. My Remember the Milk is like 30 days overdue. So I don't even want to look at it right now because it'll take me out of everything. So I just write down cards and then I lose the cards. Mike, how are the voice lessons coming? I think they're coming pretty well. I'm about a 10 to 15% singer at this point, I think, but I'm starting to build up the vocabulary and the toolkit so that when I make a weird noise, I'm beginning to understand why I make the weird noise. So now it's exciting because now I'm to the part where, well, I've got band news for you too. I'm to the part where instead of things just sounding like garbage and I don't know why they sound like garbage and I just get frustrated and punch the wall and get super mad, now I'm like, that sounds like garbage. And then I'm starting like, okay, wait a minute. I know why that sounds like garbage because I've got to do this with the soft palate where I'm not dropping the tongue enough. I don't have enough clearance in the throat. Oh yeah. Or I'm not creating space all the way through the vocal chamber. So, and I'm not using my resonator. I'm not projecting into my head. All kinds of little stuff I've had to learn along the way. So now when I screw up and it sounds bad, I'm like, I can write down like, I need to work on X. So that's very exciting. It's like a lot of things when you start. This is very similar to my athletic background. Now, when I started wrestling and I would get just skunked by people and torn up, I would be super angry and frustrated because I didn't understand what had happened. And you need to be in something for a certain amount of time to build up the vocabulary of how that skill set works. Once you build up your vocabulary and you understand how things work, and I'm sure this is the same for science, for engineering, for coding. I'm sure it's very similar for software coding and just any endeavor you're in. You don't know what you don't know, and it takes a while to understand, oh, I don't know this area, and here's the definitions, and here's the explanation of how all these things work. So now I'm getting to the point where I have a much better understanding of the toolkit, and so I'm never going to be an awesome singer, but I will be a good singer at some point. And more importantly for me, I will be, you guys may suspect this, if you ever come to a Super Weapon show, you will be entertained. You will be fucking entertained. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. And so our first show, speak of the devil, my cousin's first show, love him to death. He's now become an ordained minister. So he's changed his name from Mr. Merciless to Minister Merciless. He's very excited about this show. Going to be playing August 1st, 2022 at Navajo Live on a Monday night. A Monday night of metal. It's Metal Monday, you guys. Be the first act out of a 3-band bill on a Monday night, which is exactly where my cousin wants to be, because the first time the band has ever played live. We've had one actual in-person practice so far. Everything else is just recorded remotely, and that part is going very well. We got super fun songs, man. It's so much fun. It's such a great time to do this in my off hours. So actually playing live is going to be a real bitch. Matt, I can't do stage dive. My cousin can't do stage dives because he's playing bass and singing. If there was a bass player involved and my cousin was singing, Katie bar the door, that's going to be a very entertaining show. But playing bass, he's stuck on stage in front of a microphone, can't really get around all that much. So, but before stage dives come up or theatrics come up, just them getting through a 9-song set, that will be a miracle. We'll see how that goes. Joshua asked a question. Joshua asks, how do you get yourself to write, or would you recommend somebody out of practice get into it? I'm working on comedy bits, but I'd like to start writing fiction again, and I often find myself kind of stuck, creatively speaking. It depends on what you want to get out of it. If you want to write to sell books, and that is not something that you wake up not being able to not do, I strongly advise against it. A and I have had a ton of success in our career, but don't forget, there was a 17-year span where I was like, this is what I am doing with my life. I have made my decision. I am committed. And it was 17 years between then and when I was able to go full-time as a writer. So it's an enormous amount of work and sacrifice like any other creative skill. And the market has changed a lot. I think it's a better marketplace now than when I started. Because when I started, there were many years that went by before podcasting showed up. And when podcasting showed up, I was able to use that as a way to reach people and get around the walled garden that was publishing. To get into publishing back then, you had to know the right people. You had to have the right connections. And then you also had to be very good. It was a very different process. Very few people just got plucked out of obscurity and got published. It was a big process to get through it. But now being able to put out your own stuff via Kindle and learn how to promote that way. So there's more ways to get a following now than there were when I started out, but you're still going to write 5 to 10 books before you have any level of success at all. So it is a labor of love. If you want to write, you need to be prepared. If you want to write and sell books, right, you need to be prepared. That is a giant slog, and it takes an enormous amount of time away from your family. It takes most of your free time. It takes time away from your career, even if you have multiple jobs, because you got to find the time to keep banging and get better. And the only way to get better is to commit, in my opinion, 5 to 10 years of sucking and obscurity to get to the point where you deserve to have people pay you to give them your words. So how do I get motivated? It's really not that hard anymore. The writing is the primary revenue stream for the Sigler family and for Empty Set Entertainment. And if I'm not writing, we won't go hungry. But if I'm not writing, we're not. There's no in my brain. If I'm not writing, there's no food on the table. So it is absolutely a do or die situation, which in itself causes an enormous amount of stress in my head, because of course I don't do just the writing. I do the marketing and the outreach to you guys and trying to communicate with people, and always looking at all these other super clever people who are doing all of these different things to reach a different audience, like Readsy and I can't think of, like, Goodreads and people finding completely different ways to market books. TikTok's a huge one right now. And when you see them do that and we're not doing it, it's a massive amount of stress to all of a sudden see, like, this person, and I don't judge based on the quality of writing, because that's just my personal opinion. And there's writing I've thought has been terrible and has sold millions of copies, and writing I have thought is absolute unparalleled genius that has sold 1,000 copies. So it really comes down to the marketing. And when I see people doing things I'm not doing and having a lot of success at it, that frustrates the crap out of me. It makes me stress that I need to go learn how to do that right now. So with all that said, it's just your time in the woodshed, just like being a musician, being an athlete, being an engineer. If you're not spending time in the woodshed to make things that suck, you're not going to sell books. You got to have a long period of time where you just completely suck to sell books. If you're writing to entertain yourself, or I want to know, like, there's a lot of people who have bucket list thing. I want to write a novel. I want to write a novel before I die. I want to share it with my friends and family and throw it out there and see what happens. Awesome. That's great. That is a bit more forgiving. That motivation I can't help you with. I don't know how to coach you, how to motivate you to do that. I know that if you are utterly committed to give your blood and your life towards reaching a goal, you're already motivated. You're going to find the time to write. That being said, I will say, Joshua, scheduling. It's just scheduling. You need to go through your schedule with your partner, your family, whoever's involved in your life, and say, I need to carve out 2 hours a day, or say 10 hours a week, to focus on this thing. So get it on your calendar. Try and make sure you're starting at the same time try to write every day. Much as bullshit, try and write. It sounds like bullshit. Try to write every day. Try to write at the same time every day. Try to write in the same time window every day. So if you're going to be like, I don't have time to do that, but I can go Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 3 to 5, perfect. Put that on the calendar, and you then commit to yourself, I'm going to execute this calendar for 3 months. 3 months for sure, no exceptions. My partner's in, my family's in, whatever you got to do, because part of getting the motivation is figuring out how to start every day, how to start the story. And when you are executing on a regular basis, daily, weekly, to your schedule, that part starts to ebb down and you start to retain the information in your head. So you kind of know where you're starting. And I feel like your body knows where you're starting too. I am supposed to be in bed at 11 every night, up at 6, do all my bass practice, walk the dogs, get breakfast, do all that stuff. So I'm on the keyboard at 9 o'clock and write from 9 to 1. That is my goal every single day, and it will be for the rest of my life, because I know once my body and brain get used to that schedule, my ramp up time at 9 o'clock, instead of being 45 minutes, an hour and a half, my ramp up time is great. It's 9 o'clock. Set the 15-minute timer focus. I will not, even if I'm distracted, look at the timer, get to work. And usually after 15 minutes, I'm rolling because I'm already retaining the stuff I didn't finish the day before or reviewing notes. So I think scheduling and slaving yourself to the schedule are hugely important. Whew, that was a lot. That was like 10. Thanks, Josh. That was like 10 minutes of content right there. Woogie asks, are we ever going to be able to buy the map of the Galactic Football League? I think someday, but A and I have to talk about that. For those of you who don't know it, let's take a look. Turn this off for a second. Live TV, people. Do the kids actually still say TV? I don't know. There it is, the galaxy map. It's awesome. Get the light back up. There we go. Will we ever sell those individually? Probably at some day, but there's so much going on right now. There's so much going on right now. I can't even begin to express to you guys. Basically, we're juggling 6.5 novels right now. We're waiting for one contract to finish up. When we get that has to become the priority. So the Crypt 1 through 5, GFL book 7 and second draft, and this new book. There's a lot going on. So we're really, A's been working with me a lot to be like, I'm getting up there in the years. And I also, I busted my ass for a long, long time. And A and I have had some really deep conversations about, okay, I work 14, 16, 18 hours a day nonstop. Can't wait to get up the next day and do it. Get mad when I have to go to sleep because that gets in the way of stuff. With very little time for fun, like bursts of entertainment, like watching The Boys or watching Peaky Blinders or going to see a movie. And of course, sports season every Sunday, I get a couple hours in there with the Lions. But we've had a lot of talks about, okay, we've both worked extremely hard for a long time, for a decade together, more than a decade. And then you're like, okay, well, we've got this success. We've got food on the table. We've got the place we have. At what point do we start saying, when do we get to enjoy this success? When do we have to chase work all of the time? Because I know I'm a person, I will never be happy with my work. I will never think I've worked hard enough. I will never think I've worked long enough. Period. I'll never get all the ideas I have right now out in the marketplace, let alone with all the ideas that come out every time I turn around and look at all the things in the world. So, but at some point you have to be like, okay, when do you get to do the Hunter S. Thompson thing? When do you get to be like, great, I busted my ass this week. I worked my 40, 50, 60 hours. Now I'm going to sit down, hang out, have a scotch, maybe get high, sit there and just chill with the love of my life and go walk my dogs for a while and just go to the park and hang out. That's a long-winded way of saying all we're focused on right now is these books and the new website. And that's kind of it. So when that map comes out, we won't know until we get the new website up and we have a new way for you guys to buy stuff and shop, and we'll figure out everything from there. Oh, quick notice, the champion, we're down to, A says we'll sell the maps once the hardcovers of the Gangster sell out. Hardcover Gangster sells out, we will then sell the maps individually. Speaking of books selling out, there are only 9 copies of the champion left in their pristine original condition. That's it. When they are gone, they are absolutely gone. Let's see here. Okay. I got stuff to share, man. Let me call this up for you. That's my circus song. What do you think of it? Do it singing voice. See, singing lessons. They do something. Go to browser. Boom, the Gangster. Now, the office hours isn't really for pimping stuff. Singular place we pimp a lot of stuff, but I just want to let people know that we have 9 copies of this left in existence, and then y'all got to go to eBay, Libris, Amazon used. That's what you got to do. So if you want yourself a hardcover copy of The Gangster, ladies and gentlemen, you have been warned. That is your final warning. All right. Champion. 9 or 10 of the champion left. When the Gangster sells out, we'll sell the map. Shit. Hold on. I got to fix this, you guys. Lots of copies of the Gangster left. See what happens when you go solo? It's crazy. I'm still giving the circus song. There we go. The champion only has 9 copies left. If you don't get yours, you'll be sad. Don't come crying to me later. There you go. All right. I've made my point. I believe my point has been made, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Let me check. God, hey, David Lamb. Lots of stuff going on. Brian Pierce says I have about 20 outlines and 20 first. Okay, let's talk about this. You guys are interested in this. I just do it for fun. My kids love my writing. I love to write. I was an award-winning radio copywriter, so there's that. Right. Yeah, absolutely. If you love to write and you do it for fun and your kids love it, that is great. It's really only take on the level of punishment that you know you want. And finishing a full draft of a first novel is a lot of punishment. And then going through and doing the revisions and edits to get ready, it's an enormous amount of unfun work, frankly. So if you're writing stuff that you enjoy and you're sharing it with people, you win. That's it. End of story. You have won the game, continue to play the game, have a good time playing the game. And only when you get those ants in your pants that this is something you got to accomplish, that's when you go back and look at it from there. Let's see. Zach Kirkpatrick asks, do we have a soft date for the next installment of the GFL books? No. And I'll tell you why. Because A and I have learned over the years. This is A texting me. Champion, not gangster. Champion, not gangster. I got ahead of steam. We have learned over the years that when we make promises for when a book will come out, before we're in the production process where the book is written and going into edits, that we wind up disappointing people. And I'm from the Midwest, man. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And if I tell you a book's going to be out in November and then it's not out for a year after or 2 years after, it's really, really hard for me. I really don't like telling you guys that something's going to be out at a certain time and then it's not. And that's another level of stress in my life that I don't need, because it may not be that important to the fans, but me telling the fans when something will be out and it's not is extraordinarily important to me. So we don't really have promises. A does says sometime in 2023 is the hope, but there is no plan. There is no plan. David Lamb asks, how much fun was it playing Agent Felix Fellini in an Alien RPG last night? It was, was that last night? It was a blast. I think it was Monday night. David, can you see if you can find that link? They stored it or whatever. And Twitch, if you find that link, just put it in the chat room and I'll tell everybody about it. It was very, very fun. Emily Gregg says, I used to have so many ideas I filled notebooks with outlines. I have to schedule time to read and relax. Now scheduling time to read and relax is important. Speaking of reading, I came prepared. I brought receipts. I think that's how the kids say it. The 3 books I'm reading right now. Here we are. Let me scratch these off my list. How about old school? It's from a library. This is the best part. It is from, hold on. Okay. It is from the Elting Memorial Library in New Platts, New York. And don't think this was stolen, but this is some old school. Oh my God. It's just so awesome. I get a book like this and I have all of this mental throwback to going to the library as 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old. My mom taking me to the library, and Carol, like she would take me to the bookstore and I would buy any book I wanted. And then she would take me to the library and I would check out my 5 books max. And I would just spend the next week or 2 weeks reading nonstop. And there's something about the tactile feel of these old hardcovers that just is awesome. And even the simplistic approach to everything. So I got this. This came without the book jacket, but this is Run Silent, Run Deep, one of the all-time greatest submarine movies. I'm watching a lot of submarine fiction and nonfiction, because that influences Shakedown Book One of the Crypt and the rest of the Crypt series. It's very important, and I'm trying to emulate that World War II submarine feeling. So even something like The Hunt for Red October, which is a phenomenal movie, love it to death. It's not quite the same thing, because Hunt for Red October there's as little space as there is in a U.S. nuclear sub. There's an enormous amount of space compared to World War II. And they have things like air conditioning. You know, it's just not, and they have all these computers and all this other stuff. It's not the same thing as seeing all the old steampunky gears, mechanicals, people sweating. It's gross. World War II subs were just disgusting. Subs were disgusting all the way through the mid to late 80s. And I think we might have a sub vet in the chat room right now who can attest to this, that not many showers, everybody stank, not a lot. There's no shavings, just no washing of the laundry. I just read a book about one called the NR1, fascinating book called Dark Waters. And these dudes would go a month without cleaning their clothes. That's not how I live. I don't like that. So I'm reading Run Silent, Run Deep, straight fiction. Then I'm reading this incredibly eye-opening book. I had no idea. The Navy's done a good job of making these things go away. This one is called Troubled Water. And in I think it was the late 60s or early 70s, the Navy and other armed forces were extremely concerned. They didn't have enough people. This is when Vietnam was going on. So they lowered their standards for entrance. May have changed. I don't know if they changed the age, but they basically tried to open up the military to a lot of people who were excluded from the military or couldn't get into the military. And that brought in a lot of minority people and African Americans in particular, and a lot of people who are like, okay, I may not have the broadest educational background, but I'm probably going to get drafted, and I don't want to slug an M16 through the rice paddies of Vietnam. So a lot of people took the opportunity to sign up for the Navy, and so they were already committed to the military, and then they couldn't get drafted and have to go do inventory. And this is about a mutiny on the Kitty Hawk, like one of the most influential, powerful, devastating weapons in the history of mankind, the USS Kitty Hawk, with 5,000 people in its crew. And right now I am about that smaller part through, and it's just unbelievable. 5,000 people is a large town. I don't think it qualifies as small city, but when there's 5,000 people, you don't know the people around you. There are strangers everywhere. And the whole ship can be strangers. And you can be just down to you and your clique of the people you work with and the people you bunk with, and that's it. So when this massive race riot was going on the Kitty Hawk while it was deployed, I think in the Leyte Gulf, there are just people beating the living crap out of each other and all kinds of weapons. And the Marines told to protect the flight deck, protect these multi-million-dollar planes. It's bonkers. Anyway, so I'm reading that right now. I should be finished with it soon if I can ever find time to sit down and read. And then those are both for work. And then for my fun book, my walking around book, is one of my favorite writers and my favorite people. David Lamb says, the Kitty Hawk was just sold for scrap metal for $1. It was a news headline today. That's just amazing. Yeah, Sean, 5,000 people is bigger than both of my alma maters combined. Bigger than my high school and my college put together. Sorry, Mike. It's a very interesting book. If you guys are into military nonfiction, I suggest you check it out. If you're into fiction, however, let's talk about life, baby. Cake in the Dam. This is Jonathan Mayberry's new joint, read by none other than one of Empty Hut's favorite narrators, because he narrates our non-GFL books, Ray Porter. I'm probably in chapter 3 or 4, whatever, right out of the gate. This thing's only been out for a little while. 371 ratings, average 4.6. I haven't heard the whole book, but I don't know who the hell would give this less than a 5-star. It is Jonathan Mayberry at his best, freed from, the rigors of his scientific research and freed from the consultants of this is how actual science and physics and engineering works, which he tries to work in as much as he can. This is just straight fantasy, brutal magic. And I would say this is one of the top 10 starts to a book I've ever read. So I love it. And that is what I am reading right now. Let's go back to the chat room. Apparently I have a couple questions. Let's see. Sean Dyer asks, are you currently stuck on working through a concept with one of your technical experts? Just looking for a yes, no here. Elaborate as you see fit. Yes, I am stuck. First, I got a lot of work done on the military part, which I've got 3 amazing military advisors with 60 years of combined service between them, helping me with all this stuff because we're trying to make it as realistically military as it can be while it is still sci-fi and while it is still written by a civilian who has no military experience. You know, it's like Star Trek is arguably a military site because it's a military organization, but there's not a lot of military echoes in that compared to the real world. So I got through all the work with the military advisors, and that's pretty much the first draft. And now I'm talking to 3 astronomy PhDs, trying to do a workaround to make the faster than light travel and the other special secret sauce that's coming for you guys. Is trying to make that scientifically plausible so that the people who are very pedantic about physics can also enjoy the story. So people who are like, well, there's faster than light travel is not really possible because Einstein's postulate theory and relativity says that would take all the energy in the universe and that, like, yes, all of that is true, but this is not that kind of hard science book. It's a science fiction book, but not a hard science fiction book. So we're stuck with the physics consultants trying to figure out how to make even somebody with an astronomy PhD to be like, yeah, I mean, it's not the way it works, but that hits all the buttons. Robert Williams asks, have I listened to Crash Dive by R.C. Bray? Great series about World War II submariners. Yes, I listened to the entire series. I loved it. And it's R.C. Bray's the narrator. What the heck was the author's name? Craig DeLuey? Is that right? One sec, guys. Crash Dive. There it is. Craig DeLuey. Yes, I have read this. It is a wonderful, wonderful series. A lot of very specific technical detail about World War II submarines. And I thought it was awesome. I went through the whole thing about the series, went through the whole thing, thought it was awesome. Again, highly recommend it. At some point, or in Shakedown, we'll have a bibliography of all the books I read that influenced the work and all the movies I watched. So you'll be able to catch up with everything there. But that's a really good book. Bendy, Mike, it's bendy sci-fi. Because the point isn't, when I write hard science and it's about biology, I put in a lot more work because I understand biology. I understand how most of these things work conceptually, if not granularly. Like I'm never going to teach a class on science, but I all of that makes sense to me. Time, space, continuum, curvature, relativity, all that shit just blows my little small town head to pieces. And even though I can explain how some of this shit works, I don't get it. Like it's complete. It doesn't register as alien. So that stuff it's a bedrock. Like football is a bedrock of the GFL series. The Shakedown is a story about horrible people being put in a horrible situation and finding their tribe, about being at the absolute rock bottom you can be as a human being. And yet, because you hit rock bottom, you found the place that you belong. You found the people that you belong to. And like, I'm getting emotional just talking about it, but I think this happens to a lot of people. You know, you find your tribe based on where you are and what's going on in your life. But sometimes it's the really big mistakes that put you in a place that you don't want to be and you wish you had never been in. But in that place, you can find people that will help you become who you are and who will be connected to you your whole life long. That's what the crypt is about to me. So awful people winding up in an awful place, but finding not just the good in that, but finding their purpose and their direction and getting to a point where they don't think their whole life has been a waste. Mike, Lost Boys in a submarine in space. to some extent, but boy, I'll tell you what, you don't want to meet the ladies in this book. Boy, I'll tell you what, their writing it has been very disturbing. All right. Mike Wirtz asks, just out of curiosity, what's my opinion of Dean Koontz? I used to read a lot of Dean Koontz. Watchers is one of my favorite books. If you are a dog lover, you need to read Watchers. It is pure magic for a dog owner to read. If you're a sci-fi reader, fantasy reader, and you love dogs, go read it. If you love cats, you can. It's not the same thing. It's a very dog-specific book. And Koontz puts in a lot of dogs in his books very frequently. But I tapered off about 10 years ago, maybe 15, I can't really remember. The books, they started to have a bit of a familiar pattern and pace to me. And there's so many books that I want, if I'm reading something for enjoyment purely, and I'm like, I can already kind of tell where this is going, I tend to drift away. And also, Koontz uses a lot of straight up magic. And straight up magic is, if the characters get to do things because of magic and problems are solved because of magic, and that magic is not specified with a particular system of magic. Brandon Sanderson has tons of magic. I can read Brandon Sanderson all day long because he says, here are my rules. I will tell you the story within this rule set. And then he tells the story. And it's awesome. It's awesome. It's much more like, Marvel superheroes back in the day when they had specific rules, how everything worked, as opposed to, say, Superman who could just do anything. And Dean Koontz is largely, his magic is unformed and freeform. It's a lot like Stephen King's magic in that, like, you can think the magic works this way in the first half of the book, the second half of the book. It all changes. No reason, no rhyme. It just changes. And a lot of people love that, obviously. But it just wound up, after a while, I'm like, I sort of need a structure. I'm more of a thriller reader than anything else. Sean asks, do you think you might audit a university course someday as preparation for one of your books? Probably not. There's nothing I'm planning on writing that I think needs that particular level of approach or expertise. Although to be fair, I may not truly understand what auditing a university course means. So, Shannon Bethany asks, what's my opinion on John Grisham? It's awesome. I think I've read 2 of his books. And his movies, his stuff is so prime set up for movies because he has a very specific rules-based thriller structure. There's not all of a sudden going to be an imp with a bouquet of flowers who makes the problem go away. Or, the one with Stephen King is always the can of fake peanut brittle, which has always been spring snakes, all of a sudden becomes this fountain of magic that solves all of the problems and ends the story. Grisham is a technician. So there's a lot, if you're a thriller writer, can't go wrong reading that guy. That being said, just like I don't really gravitate towards there are no rules magic. I don't gravitate towards there's no magic at all. There's no speculative element. So there's, in the science fiction community, science fiction and horror and fantasy are grouped under an umbrella called speculative fiction. The speculative being like imagining a world that does not exist. So those things are called speculative fiction. Most of the hardcore thrillers, the Nelson DeMille's, that's not speculative at all. It's people like talented people like us, but doing regular world things. And so I like it. I would rather watch those movies than spend 10 to 16 hours reading those books. I love the movies. But yeah, there's not enough like, holy shit, people can do that in there for me to stick with it. So let's see, that's done. I did Launchpad, which A points out, which was I guess auditing university course, a course specifically aimed for science fiction writers to have more hardcore science in their works. And Launchpad was where I came up with the concept of the crypt. It was like percolating in there. I learned so much. Phil Plake, the bad astronomer, was there. Mike Brotherton was there. There's a lot of amazing, wonderful scientific people, a bunch of writers. I'm forgetting 2 other. Robert Sawyer was there. Damn it, who just won the Hugo like 3 years in a row? I'm not good with names, you guys. I'm sure somebody put it in there. It was a wonderful experience. I learned this all. That was writing down all of this stuff for the Crypt, which is now going to be Shakedown Book I. And really that was the course that helped me understand what I had. I already had the concept of what if they take the worst people in the military and tell them you can either go to prison for 20 years or you can be executed or you can serve 2 years in this awful, awful, awful place. Which would you choose? So the Shakedown the Crypt is also, it's one of those, it's man versus the wild is a literary concept. Man versus nature. The hero's quest, all these things. The Shakedown the Crypt is more like it's man versus themselves. And I had that concept of take these awful people, put them in an awful place, which is inspired by the movie The Devil's Brigade and the Magnificent Seven, The Dirty Dozen, movies like that, but do that in a confined place in space. But it was Launchpad, which was really like, holy crap, there's so much cool stuff in space that's actually real science. That was where I learned about spaghettification. Spaghettification is the coolest thing ever. If you've never heard of spaghettification, look up spaghettification. Mike says Lord of the Flies. This is not Lord of the Flies. Lord of the Flies was innocent young people being thrust into a situation that eventually they devolved primitive nature in order to survive. Because survival is if you don't have survival, you have nothing else, right? So this Shakedown, on the other hand, it's a choice. It is a choice by grown-ups who know what they've done, and then they can choose, I can ride out a long time in this manner, or I can get all my sins forgiven. Everything I've ever done will be forgiven. Fresh start, no baggage, no criminal record. If I just put in 2 years in this place, they'll probably kill me because 80% of the people that go into this program don't make it out. So you're playing, the Shakedown it's a lottery for your life. You are gambling your life you're gambling a short life against a long life full of regrets. Your life's already determined. You're in a predetermined state because you're going to be in prison for the rest of your life. Do you serve your life sentence, or do you I'm going to go risk this thing? There's 8 out of 10 chance I'll die. Which one do you pick? That's what the series is really about. So all of the getting to go to Launchpad and getting to hear hardcore scientists talk about hardcore sciencey stuff and how to communicate science in your fiction was friggin' awesome. I'm drinking scotch, everybody. Everybody drinking tonight? Everybody drinking? Sherry Hare says, hello, Sherry. Yeah, if you're a writer, apply to Launchpad Workshop. Just apply. Sherry says, do you find having a totally different creative outlet, your music endeavor, gets you out of your head to be able to help with your writing, looking for help with the hubs and trying to get him out of his head? 100%. I think I'm becoming a better writer rapidly because of the music side of things, because of the music side of things. I told you guys, if I didn't have my significant other and trying to when do I get to appreciate all of the results of all this hard work, I would work probably 18 hours a day all the time. And that does a lot for you. You get a lot of things done, but I say that to say that my brain is almost always on the job. It's always working on the projects. I don't get to walk away from it ever. It's always there. I can't watch anything on TV. I can't watch movies. I can't read books without analyzing every little thing, comparing it to what I'm doing at that time, except for, basically hanging out and partying, having a great time, watching a little comedy, that kind of a thing, or when I'm doing the music, because I'm not very mathematically inclined, and music is an enormous amount of math, whether you know it or not. And it's also blending that with the creativity, and that uses a completely different part of my brain. So one of the few times in my life, including sleep, when I'm not thinking about the stories and what I need to do, what I need to fix, and how to make things better, is when I'm playing music. When I'm playing music, that is all I am thinking about, period. So that does what my goal in life is for my work to do for you guys. What I work hard for every day is to make a book so good that when you get it, you get lost in it and you forget about all of your troubles. You're not with your kids. You're not with your spouse. You're not at your job. You're not with your asshole in-laws. You're not reading the news. You're not anywhere. You're in a bubble that I created for you to go inside and have a fucking break. That's all my fiction is, man. Like, come in here, shut the door, and relax and have a fucking break, man. You deserve a break. You work your ass up all the time. There's so much stuff going on. So what I try to create for you guys, this place of escapism so that your brain can reset, you can draw a breath, you come back into it. Things are still stressful. Things are still demanding, but you're like, whew, got a breather, got a little bit of a nap. That's what music does for me. So when I'm doing the music, I am in a completely different space. But the ADD is still there, man. Because once I start doing the music, I need to tap out. I need it scheduled. Otherwise, I'll do that. I will do that for longer than the 16 hours of work. I would probably work on a song until I pass out from exhaustion. Because the part of my brain that calculates time, also not part of the music side of things. All right, let's see. Julie Machine Gun Press in the house. What? Very nice. Very nice. Let's see. Brian asks, ever read about the Andersonville Raiders in the Confederate Andersonville prison? One example of a pure... Oh, Andersonville was just bonkers, man. Andersonville was a Civil War prison. And when I started to learn about the Civil War, it taught me an enormous amount about America that I as a younger person, I couldn't conceptualize. I'm like, sure, America's got this problem, but it's great. And it is great. It's fucking awesome. Love being an American. Super proud of my country. Everything's great. But when you start to read stuff about the Civil War and the French Indian War, and I guess more the Civil War, because it was Americans doing it to Americans, you're like, whoa, this is holy crap. Learning about life in Andersonville, just a hideous, hideous place to be. It's not as bad as Andersonville. These people are actual in Shakedown. These are military personnel, enlisted officers without rank. They are brought into the ship to do their job. They're expected to do their job well. They're expected to perform at the highest levels. And even though they're fuck ups, they wouldn't be on the ship if they weren't good at their job. They wouldn't take an idiot who can't pick up a wrench and put them in the PUV James Keeling. So the people who get put there, what I think are this dynamic Venn diagram of, wow, you're awesome at this particular skill set. You're in the upper 5th percentile. You're amazing. Wow, you're a piece of shit human being who did a bunch of stuff that you know you shouldn't have done, but you did it anyways. And it's that little space in the middle where the characters from the crypt come from. Also a couple who've been flat out framed. It's true. People don't deserve what's coming on with them. So it's not Andersonville. These people are making a choice. They're fed, they're clothed, but they're expected to perform at the highest levels under massive stress in a very dangerous situation for 2 years to get their life back. So they are absolutely making a choice. As far as Sherry, as far as getting your guy out of the writing, difficult to say. It's different for every person. Different for every person. All right. Mike says, I've got lots going on, but never been happier when my toddler demands I play guitar for him. That's cheating. Dude, that's so cheating. You get to play guitar for the kid. That's flat out cheating. Let's see if there's any other questions coming in. The morphine addict dog. I don't know the tail end of that one. What else did I have guys planned for you? Let's see. Val's Revenge. This is coming up very soon. Very soon. I will have a couple of Lego masterpieces created by 2 Lego masterminds. I'm trying to think if I should tell you who they are. Anyways, we have 2 very hardcore junkies who have made 2 elements of Shakedown in Lego, and they are both just kick-ass. So we're going to have models and toys to play with on at Sigler & Place very soon. One of them was already shipped to me. I think the other one is not quite finished yet, so we will keep going. Let's see. I think that's all the stuff I had to plan talk about. And then again, August 1st, 2022 at Navajo Live, my cousin's first gig as a singer and as a bass player. Apparently I've got the hiccup burps, the herps. That's a bad word. Herps is not a good, I'm not going to walk around like I got the herps. No, that's not a way to go. So that is all the stuff I plan to talk to you guys about tonight. I'm going to take a quick look for any other questions, and it doesn't even need to be questions for office hours. You can just say, hey man, what are your thoughts on X? Which I guess you guys have been doing. You guys have been doing that, which actually is a question. Hey, what are your thoughts on X? Ends in a question mark. Therefore, that is a question. Let's see how we're doing people-wise. Whoop. The chat just went bonkers. I'll move it over here. Got a good group out tonight. So you guys, it is Wednesday. Today I got to check your encoder settings. Is anybody getting any halting? If you are getting any halting, tell me in the chat room. Matt Moretti, what is the speed of a swallow? That depends. And if it is a McDonald's hamburger or a walnut. Nelson, I can neither confirm nor deny that Kelly is one of the people working on the Lego experiment. Robin Taylor, will you ever get a cat? No. Tim Clark asks, how are the dogs? Fantastic. I just carried a bag of poop home, 2 bags of poop home, put the bags of dog poop in the fridge, and then had my wife go, why did you bring home so much dog poop? I said, get a sample. I'm like, I got the sample. That is a sample. Your sample set may be larger than others. Long story short, the dog poop was processed, and everybody's fine. Dogs are good. We got some slightly bizarro levels in there, but nothing major. So in the past week, I've got a deep probing health check into the inner workings of my entire immediate family, my 2 dogs and my wife, and everybody's doing good. Could not be happier. That is, let's go. Let's see. Oh, Reagan, just let me copy that, you guys, and post it. If you're curious about my session with rainbows and razor blades, which was where I did, how do I copy this? Let's see. Here we go. This was where I got to role play the Alien game on streaming camera. There we go. You may watch it there. I admit it took me a while to get into it because basically I wrote like right up to the 2 minutes before I had to turn on Zoom and get on the gaming session. And my brain wasn't connecting, and there were super cool people, and I got to meet some new people.
Could you say that again?
No, I can't say it again, Siri.
I'm having trouble hearing.
Siri's being nosy. And then I think about the halfway mark through the role-playing session, I settled in and things started to get a little bit loose and a little bit fun. So you guys can watch that if you like. It was very enjoyable for me. I believe, let's see, that is all the questions. Great, guys. I hope you're having a good week so far. I'm having a good week. I get paid to write. I get to hang out with A. And it looks like I got another 5,000 to 10,000 miles on everybody in the immediate family. Although I did just talk to my mom about her will today. And, of course, Carol, I call and leave Carol a message to be like, okay, well, it looks like your notary is expired and there's all this other work that needs to be done since you've moved to get this all taken care of. And Carol calls me back from the lawyer's office, and they both ask me if I have plans to murder my mother so I can get the will. So that's Carol for you, bringing in other people on the tomfoolery. Great, everybody. You guys are all fantastic. I think if there are no more questions, I will tap out for the evening. You guys are wonderful. Yeah, thank you very much for hanging out with me for the night. And my God, my character did not get outsmarted by an android, David Lamb. Did not. My character ruled. My character was the best. The best. Brian asks, is Lovecraft overrated? I don't think so. I don't think you sell that many books. I don't think you're selling merch, 100 years after your death of Miskatonic University? that you're overrated. I think that is the definition of being fucking rated is H.P. Lovecraft. God damn. How could I not know who wrote Harry Potter right now? J.K. Rowling, like Stephen King. Like the definition of being rated as a writer to me is Edgar Allan Poe. Does your work survive you by a century and still have a bunch of fandom? And let's cut it to 50 years for J.K. and Stephen. They're still alive. If your work resonates that far into the future, that is the gold standard of being a creator, is that your work that would not have existed if it was not for you is still engaging people long after you are dead. That is the Super Bowl of being a creator of any stripe. Good night, Sherry. Good night, everybody. Nelson says rated but racist. Rated but racist. Yeah, there's a lot going on. That's the whole separate conversation. You're like, this is an amazing work of art that everybody agrees is one of the most amazing works of art of all time. And it's taught in colleges, and you must read this work of art in order to be considered a learned individual. And like, oh shit, that person's a horrible racist. This work is not that important anymore. That's weird to me. That's still a weird thing. NZ Multimedia on Twitch says, I would throw in Tolkien and C.S. Lewis in that group 100%, especially when your stuff, if you live long enough that the work you created comes out of copyright, like that's, okay, C.S. Lewis would not, but Tolkien, pretty soon, it's going to be out of copyright. That's how old it is. If it's not out of copyright already. That's pretty amazing when you outlive the copyright laws. Your work outlives the copyright laws. Great. I don't know how to fix that. Okay, everybody, we've got, let's see, about 30 of us hanging out still. Emily McGregor says, I sell so many $40 Cthulhu plushies. I can attest to Lovecraft being hot still. And the great thing, like a guy like John Grisham, we talked about earlier, John Grisham's work will be gone by the time John Grisham is long in the dirt, because there's nothing unique, out of time, or new that didn't exist before about that for that to engage people's minds the way what H.P. Lovecraft came up with, which most of it he just invented, probably because he was high as balls. The stuff he created that wouldn't have existed without him, that's the stuff that Emily McGregor gets to sell $40 hoodies for left and right. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing to us. Let's see, guys, we're going to be back Wednesday. Oh my gosh. Oh, darn it. This is also good. Sigler plays back Wednesday, June 22nd for National Onion Ring Day, which I can't wait for. I'm going to have me some onion rings. I thought it said National Hot Dog Day, and I got very excited. I'm a big fan of the hot dog. John Bivens, any thoughts on Terry Brooks? I'm pretty sure I've never read Terry's work. I know I'm probably in the minority on that, so I don't have any opinion other than that he seems to make a lot of people very happy with his work. What else could you hope for? Steve thought that was his phone. All right, guys, I'm going to go hang out with I was going to say the birthday girl, but the anesthesia girl is a much better way to describe it. She's had a rough day. I'm going to go hang out with her. Hopefully, if she chooses, we're going to watch The Boys, Season 3, Episode 5. What a crazy, bonkers show. I know, Danny, I never actually read Terry Brooks. It just, no reason, no rhyme. It just did not quite work out. And I probably have, I just don't remember it. James literally asked, what do I think about Waylandier? I'm not familiar. Is that an author? Like, I have zero concept. Good night. Good night, Daryl. Good night, Reagan. And yeah, dude, Nelson, The Boys is just crazy good writing. I'm convinced there's no way they can finish the season strong. 100%. This season's going to go off the rails writing wise. It's going to be like a 1982 soap opera. There's no way they finish as strong as they have started out through the first 4 episodes. Michael Grace, good night, my brother. Good night, Mike. Everybody have a great night. That's it for me, guys. I'm going to go have a scotch, hang out with the love of my life. Hope you guys have a great Wednesday. We will see you again June 22nd for National Onion Ring Day. Why not make some onion rings? Why not make some onion rings and serve them up to yourself and join us, because I will be having onion rings. And if you don't have them, you'll be jealous. Good night, Bromangalon. Good night. Good night, Nelson. Good night. Oh, hi, Mark. Mark, did you just join us? I'm signing off, buddy. Sorry about that. Good night, Mark. Good night, everyone. Good night, everyone. Wherever you are across this great wide globe that is so round and so huge, I know that you, deep down inside, just want to connect with other people and live your lives in peace and harmony. And that's what we do on this show. That's why I'm Caps McGee, and tonight I say good luck to you and good riddance to those that you have done away with. We will now sign off for the rest of the night. This is Caps McGee saying, somewhere you're loved, probably.